Welcome to Impact Makers Radio, helping you to find jargon-free information before choosing a professional to help solve your problems and live the life you love. And here's your host, Stuart Andrew Alexander.
Hi everybody, and welcome to another Let's Talk Retirement conversation. And during this segment of the show today, ladies and gentlemen, I'm so happy that we finally have financial advisor Erik Fromm at CSG Capital Partners of Janney, Montgomery, Scott, LLC, and he's calling in all the way from Washington, D.C. Now, Erik, who has a wealth of experience in the finance industry, will be talking to you today about a very interesting topic. You see, Erik's taken the time out of his busy day to come and speak with us about managing the transition into retirement. That's a very important topic, and I can't wait to hear what he has to share with us. So, if you are one of the increasing numbers of people who are approaching retirement age in the Washington, D.C. area, and you're out there looking for jargon-free information surrounding today's topic, then you might just want to take a break. Log out of Facebook, stop the Twittering and Instagramming or anything else you happen to be doing which may cause a distraction, and you may even want to pick up a notepad and pen and get ready to take some notes as we listen in to what Erik has to share with us today. So with that said, let's not keep him waiting a moment longer. Welcome to the show, Erik.
Great to be here. Yeah, thanks a lot for having us.
You are so welcome, my friend. So let's just jump feet first in. Briefly, in your own words, Erik, please describe the kinds of people who you serve and the various types of situations they find themselves in when they come to you for your help.
Sure. So from the types of people that we really serve individuals, families, companies, really from all walks of life and in all phases of life. But typically, relationships start with us at some point of transition. Are you changing jobs? Has there been a change to your family? Are you starting to think about retirement, or is it really close to that transition to retirement? So, commonly in those situations or transition points, people have higher levels of stress, anxiety, and the higher levels of stress and anxiety tend to lead to poor decision making. And so at that moment, people come to us to hopefully help restore some sense of order, peace of mind around their financial lives, which obviously permeates into all other aspects of their life. So transitions and really helping people through them.
So are these people in the later stages of their life then, Erik?
They can be. So again, our team does work with folks across the different phases of life. So, sometimes it's, the young professional who's really just starting to come into their own and they want to come and set the right foundation for wealth accumulation. But generally, our client base skews a little bit older in that, say, 55 to 70-year-old range. Again, either really starting to think about what their next chapter looks like, or they're in the next chapter and they're having some difficulty really navigating it.
Okay, thanks for sharing that with us, and Erik. Before we go any further, I always like to look after my guests and make sure that everybody who's listening in knows exactly what we're doing today. So before we go any further, it must be said that anything you share with us today, Erik, is not legal advice or legal assistance. It's purely for the purpose of disseminating information. Now, would you care to elaborate on that in your own words, please, Erik?
Sure. So, right now, just looking to get some general information out there on the transition to retirement, and again, nothing at any time when we start to engage in a relationship. obviously that information has to, and advice has to be customized to you. So if we want to take it, away from the 30,000 foot view that we'll concentrate on today, certainly we need to delve into the details of your individual situation for us to be giving specific advice. So yeah, going to try to keep things as general as possible today, and happy to follow up in more detail outside the scope of this conversation.
Perfect. Thanks for clarifying that, Erik. So with that said, when you think about those people who you help, when it comes to managing their transition into retirement, what are one or two of the most common misconceptions you come across when working with those people who you work with on a day-to-day basis?
I would say the biggest thing that people don't think about is that you have other options other than sort of this stereotypical, go through the grind of a career, work till you're 65, turn on Social Security, hopefully you've built up enough money to set aside, and then sort of fade off into retirement. What we're seeing is retirement is being redefined as people live longer, healthier lives. They're able to work longer, and especially if they can find engaging work, which may or may not be in your current primary career. So I'd give an example of a conversation and a transition we helped the client with, over the last few years. Client in their late 50s was absolutely miserable in their job. Again, just grinding it out, sort of trying to keep under the radar, and just wants to make it to 65, 66 and be on their way. But, that the stress of this job and that lifestyle was impacting home life, was impacting their health, mental stress. And what we did was take a step back, talk about what really is important and what other options might be on the table. And so what we ended up doing was help this individual. He and the family downsized their home, and what they did was found a consulting position using the knowledge that he had built up for decades of experience, and left that miserable job, and now is in a position that he's finding the work so engaging he doesn't see himself retiring, quote unquote full-time retirement, for the foreseeable future. He could work well past that 65-year range, and so the numbers worked out that way. We were able to consider that option, but I think the biggest misconception is that there's only one retirement out there, and it's sort of it's an antiquated, outdated version of what other possibilities might, present themselves to you.
So as a reminder, ladies and gentlemen, my guest today is Erik Fromm, financial advisor at CSG Capital Partners of Janney, Montgomery, Scott, LLC in Washington, D.C. And today's topic, what Erik is speaking on, is managing the transition into retirement. Now, Erik, with that in mind, and for those people out there who are listening in right now, please share one common but unknown pitfall they need to be aware of no matter what situation they find themselves in.
Sure. So when we talk about the transition to retirement, the biggest thing that we see people struggle with is not the management of their portfolio or making sure that they have the paycheck they need. It's really how they will spend their time, which is really interesting to see. So if you can put yourself in that position of working, your decades in the workforce, what are you going to do day one? How are you going to spend your day? Who are you going to spend it with? And can you find something, again, engaging to do? Because, very, very commonly, again, when we go back to sort of this stereotype of retirement, it's vacation and, golf every day. And that just isn't the reality. And so what we've really tried to help people define is what is their next core pursuit their next core passion going to be in their life? Because you could very well live another 30 years in retirement, and how are you going to spend that time, and who are you going to spend it with? Is really the question that we try to think about that as early as possible, so that even while you are working, you can start to set up that sort of life. You can visualize that life after the career, which again, so many folks identify themselves as, partly by their work. So who will you be after retirement is a line of thought that doesn't get its fair share in the retirement planning conversation.
Right. And I would imagine people come to you and they're looking at their retirement planning options maybe 10, 15 years before, or maybe even at the last minute. But just to kind of future pace and see yourself what you're going to be doing when you retire, I think that's quite challenging. I mean, how do you actually break that down then, Erik? That's so that someone can actually, get some sense, get some kind of visualization of how their life is going to look after retirement. That's such a fascinating topic.
Yeah, I think you mentioned it. It's visualization. It's putting yourself, taking the time to press pause, pull yourself back, and maybe the one way that we work through it with clients is maybe someone in your life that when when you're looking at their life from your perspective, they seem to have gotten some things right. They're happy in retirement. Well, what have they done to get them to that place? Maybe you interview that person. Maybe we'll facilitate a group discussion. We'll bring some clients together to talk about those that are out, again, fully engaged in retirement. They're volunteering in the community, or maybe still working part-time, just to so just thinking about that dynamic and just push pause button on your life and really just give it some thought. If you can get your mind to go out 10, 15 years from now, or 5 years from now, or next week, it's a difficult thing to do, but it's one of the things that we find most rewarding. And visualization is absolutely key. Is just taking a step back and putting yourself in your future self's shoes, so to speak.
Right. Because it's one of those things that people, when they go to bed at night, that's on their mind. What am I going to do? What's life going to look like after I retire? So being able to have somebody to bounce those concerns back onto, I think that's fantastic. That's really fascinating. Thanks for sharing that with us, Erik.
Sure.
So, without going into your background, Erik, as we'll touch on that shortly, how many combined years have you been involved in the finance industry?
So this is my 8th year as an advisor.
Okay, so when you think about all the clients who you've helped to achieve that transformation they were looking for when they first came to you for your help, on a deep down personal level now, Erik, and be really sincere with me, what do you actually get from that? How does it make you feel?
Well, our job is incredibly rewarding. We retire with clients, maybe a dozen times a year. And so if we can get that right, if we can get that aspect of someone's life right, again, it impacts so many other things. So we really are making an impact in not only the individuals, but their family's life. And I can't think of anything else more rewarding to do than to allow a family to live the life they want to live with as little stress around their money as humanly possible. And to do that year in, year out, and sort of day to day, those are the conversations I have with clients, is how can we improve outcomes? How can we put you in a position to live the life you want to live while taking care of all your financial responsibilities? It's I consider it, just the greatest job. I could not see myself doing anything else.
So please tell us a little bit about your backstory then, Erik. What inspired you to become a financial advisor?
Inspiration to be an advisor actually was for helping out my own family. We had my parents going through some stress, some difficulty in that arena, and it was an area that I had some interest in when I was in school, more from the numbers perspective, but when I saw it for myself, just the dynamic that the lack of proper planning could have, the implications of not having a sound plan and what it does and the stress that it causes. If I could learn and address that for my own family and just and being able to help friends from that, and really the interest just grew from there. So I didn't jump into it right after graduating from Gettysburg College, but 2010 joined a firm, joined the industry, and it's been just an immersive training process from really there to over the last 8 years. It's been fantastic. To include, I did go through the College of Financial Planning to earn my Certified Financial Planner designation, which again, really just my role on our team is rooted in planning and just conversations with clients. We have a portfolio manager that and a team that does sort of the nuts and bolts in the background of the portfolio and but that's, to us, that's really the prescription. We first really need to just dive into, what's the diagnosis. And so that's really my role. And it's been rooted in, seeing how much of an impact it can have. And, if I can do that with other individuals and families, then, that's where I see my place.
Right. So after 8 years in the finance industry, you must have seen a lot, heard a lot, done a lot. But please share a lesson that you learned early on that still influences how you do business today, then, Erik.
I would say that, keeping the industry is certainly built around keeping the interest of the client in mind, but someone put it in a different way, keeping the client's life at the forefront. Is a particular investment suitable for someone? Maybe, yes, no. But if we take the perspective of, are we improving the client's life with the piece of advice that we're giving, with the recommendation that we're making, that perspective, if we can hold on to that and we make a recommendation with that in mind, we know that we're doing our job to the best, to the highest degree that we can. So keep the client's life, their overall life, finances, health, mental stress. If we can improve those different areas with the advice that we give, then the numbers will sort of take care of themselves, if that makes sense.
It absolutely does, and you shared such great content with us today, Erik, so I really thank you for that. Now, we are approaching the end of the show, so before we close out, and for those listeners out there, what's the most important thing that they should consider when evaluating a financial advisor?
Many things to consider, but really it's what are the values and principles that that the advisor relies on to guide advice, and are your interests aligned with the advisors? I think that's paramount, and there's been a lot of press recently on the idea of an advisor being in a position of a fiduciary for their client, meaning that the client's life and in situation is first and foremost. And again, if you, beyond the nuts and bolts of this portfolio management process versus another, in all just the financial planning process, if it doesn't start with my interests are first and foremost in the advisor's mind, and that's just, and it permeates through their process and their just the way that they do business. That you have to start there. From there, then it's more just a question of style and relationship, but it has to start there with your life being most important in the client's practice.
It's been a blast speaking with you today, Erik. You've covered quite a lot of ground in such a short space of time, and we've been speaking to those individuals, those families, those business owners who find themselves at that transitional point in their lives where they are considering their options for divorce. And you talked about some of the misconceptions that they have more options than the stereotypical retire, get the golden watch, and then just see out your golden days sitting on the beach. You went on to speak about some of the pitfalls that they need to be aware of, the things that they struggle with, how they will spend their time when they retire. I found that absolutely fascinating, speaking along that topic. And then you went on to speak about just how rewarding this work is for you, being able to have an impact on your clients' lives and allowing them to live the life that they love. So we are coming to a close, Erik. So for those people who are out there approaching retirement age, what final thoughts would you like to share with them before we finish up with our last question for today?
If you have stress in your financial life and it's, again, impacting other areas of your life, don't hesitate to reach out to the advisor community. By and large, we're here to help. It's again, if you're with a team, we can help you through transitions in a better way. Avoid the big mistake that'll be detrimental to you and the family over the long term. And really, we're here to help. And it's a matter of taking the step to reach out and have a conversation, and again, it can make a material impact on your outcomes. So it's really just if you're having stress, you don't have to be in that state of stress around your money. There's a lot of competent teams, and I hope ours included, that can help you through these transitions.
So if someone feels they want to know more about managing the transition into their retirement, what's the easiest way for them to connect with you, Erik?
So first and foremost, you can get a lot more information on myself and our team, process, philosophy, even just current thoughts as they come up month to month. That's at www.csgcapitalpartners.com. Just to meet the rest of the team and get us a better flavor for us. But contact me directly. The phone number here in DC, 202-955-4318. I'm fairly active on social media, so you can find me on LinkedIn as my primary source there. Just look up Erik Fromm, or email efromm. It's EFROMM at Janney, JANNEY.com.
Fantastic. So, Erik, I'm just thinking about those individuals who will be listening into the show right now. And after listening to you sharing so many great insights, they may still have some reservations about picking up the phone and giving you a call. So let's just spend a brief moment addressing that objection. What will actually happen when they pick the phone up, dial that number you just shared with them? What will exactly happen so that they know clearly that it's no risk to take the next step?
So for our process of speaking to new potential relationships, it all starts with what we call a fit discussion. Are we a fit for you? Are you a fit for our practice? There's no cost to having that discussion. And, just we need to hear your story to understand if it's a situation where we can provide, where we can make an impact on your life. And so, for a first conversation, it's all about, what's your story. We're not going to be going through, we're not going to be pulling out the Excel spreadsheets just yet. It's really just, can we connect on a personal level? Do we think that it sounds like a situation where our practice is a fit? And from there, again, we can dive into details much beyond that. But it all starts with, are we aligned? Do we think that we can help? And if not, we'll can point you in the right direction otherwise. But it all just starts with that introduction to us. It's person to person. Again, it's not send us all your financial information and then we'll talk. It's we really got to get to know you at a personal level to see if it's something, because our relationships last for a very long time. So it has to be a fit first, and then we can get into the details. But just no cost, no judgment on that first call. Just does it make sense to talk further?
Okay, thanks for clarifying that then, Erik. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we have been listening to financial advisor Erik Fromm. Thank you so much for sharing so generously with us today, Erik. You have certainly, without a shadow of doubt, demonstrated that you are a true educator, advocate, and trustworthy advisor for your client success. So thank you.
Great being on. Thanks for having me.
You are so welcome, Erik, my friend. And I'd also like to take a quick moment to say a big thank you to you. Yes, the listener. Thank you for joining us on this very insightful and informative discussion with one of the top financial advisors in the Washington, D.C. area today. Again, his name is Erik Fromm. Make sure you do check him out. Give him a call. Visit his website. There are some great resources on there. I'm sure that whatever course of action you do decide to take, that after listening to Erik today, you'll most certainly be in good hands. So that's it, folks. Again, my name is Stuart Andrew Alexander, and we'll be back shortly with some more leading retirement professionals in this, our series of Let's Talk Retirement Conversations. So until then, take care, have a great day, and we'll talk real soon.
Thank you for tuning in to Impact Makers Radio. To listen to all past, present and future industry thought leaders and trendsetters, visit us at impactmakersradio.com.